Thanks for tuning in today. This is the ALTP, and we're bringing you a deep dive report on the growing movement to deregulate and abolish homeowners associations across the American interior. For decades, the mandatory HOA framework has operated as an unregulated administrative microstate. Today, we break down the forensic data. The most undeniable result of HOA abolition is the permanent elimination of mandatory dues, which currently average $259 per month nationwide. This acts as an immediate, unencumbered $3,100 annual tax cut for the middle-class homeowner. Beyond just cash in hand, these fees actively suppress your purchasing power. Corporate lenders factor HOA fees into debt-to-income ratios. A $400 monthly fee can reduce a buyer's mortgage capacity by tens of thousands of dollars. By severing this relationship, the ALTP argues we are restoring free market economics at the most localized level. The real estate lobby claims HOA are necessary to protect property values, citing a 4 to 6% premium for aesthetic uniformity. However, the ALTP's counteraudit reveals a stagnation case. Non-HOA homes are currently appreciating at a higher, unhindered rate because they lack administrative oversight and fees. The data shows that 68% of buyers are now actively avoiding HOA as altogether, along with properties with deed restrictions. By banning home-based businesses or commercial vehicle parking, HOA as actually shrink the potential buyer pool for a home. The ALTP maintains that true value is derived from location and construction quality, not the enforcement of a uniform mailbox design. In today's market, the real premium is paid for absolute freedom. Abolishing an HOA restores total authority over the aesthetic and functional use of private property, governed only by baseline municipal zoning. This means the right to paint your home any color or park a work vehicle without an unelected committee's permission. However, there's a catch. The burden of maintenance shifts from private enforcement to municipal civil nuisance law. You lose the ability to leverage a private board to fine a neighbor into compliance for a messy yard. The ALTP warns that freedom requires a high tolerance for the aesthetic choices of your neighbors. Many subdivisions were designed with HOAs specifically so cities wouldn't have to pay for roads, retention ponds, or sewers. If an HOA is abolished, ownership of these assets becomes a legal crisis. Municipalities often refuse to absorb these roads unless homeowners pay massive special assessments to bring them up to modern code. The ALTP suggests a mandatory engineering audit before any dissolution vote to uncover hidden liabilities. Over 70% of HOAs are not run by volunteers, but by for-profit management corporations. These firms treat neighborhoods as revenue farms, extracting fees through warning letters and aggressive fines. These corporations employ powerful lobbying arms to make it legally nearly impossible for residents to dissolve their own boards. They weaponize corporate law to bury deregulation efforts in litigation. The most terrifying power of an HOA is the ability to execute non-judicial foreclosures for minor fines or dues. Families have lost homes worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over just a few $1,000s in disputed fees. Through superpriority liens, HOA debt can actually supersede a primary mortgage. Legislative momentum is shifting, specifically through what the ALTP calls the Florida Abolishment Protocol. This provides a streamlined process for a supermajority of residents to vote an HOA out of existence, treating it as a revocable contract rather than a permanent attachment to the land. The ALTP is pushing for model legislation that mandates a reauthorization vote every 3 years. Abolishment isn't just about saving on fees, it's about secondary income. HOAs often ban short-term rentals, ADUs, and home businesses. Severing these covenants allows a family to use their property to build resilience against inflation, whether by renting a basement or running a consulting firm. The ALTP concludes that the era of surrendering property rights for curb appeal is ending. While the transition back to unmanaged ownership may be difficult, It is a necessary step to protect the Fourth Amendment and prevent corporate wealth extraction. You cannot truly own your home if a board of neighbors can seize it over the color of your front door. The ALTP stands with the sovereign property owner, providing the tactical truth to dismantle the neighborhood microstate. Thanks for taking this dive with us. If you would like more stories like this one, you can follow us on Facebook at the ALTP, on X at the _ALTP with 2 E's. On Instagram at the ALTP. This deep dive is brought to you by the American Liberty and Transparency Project. God's truth, our liberty, our republic. Thanks for listening.